when technology moves forward, we have to take great care to use it in a moral way and to use it in a way that really benefits the people it's intended to benefit. So, do you remember hearing about an historic breakthrough technique where, with genetic editing, a young boy, I forget how many months old he is, born with a very rare chromosome defect, that because I think it was in Philadelphia, the doctors, along with some people from a university, I believe it was the University of Pennsylvania or Penn State, they were able to adjust, if I may use the word heal, correct the defect through genetic editing, so that the boy now is slowly recovering and overcoming what would have been potentially a fatal condition.
Wow.
Right? It's called the CRISPR gene therapy. So this boy now is promised a healthy life because genetic engineering, if I could use it that, was used to specifically address a disease and help him to heal from that. It's remarkable. It's
Yeah.
remarkable what can be done, right? So on one hand, we sit back and we celebrate that. And the fact that all the genius that goes into that, and it is genius. I mean, I could barely spell it, never mind try to understand how it's done. But there are some really dedicated, bright people, doctors, physicians, researchers, who could actually drill down to the chromosome itself, and through therapy be able to, in some way, mitigate its effect. I'm going to use the word heal because it's the easy
Yes.
way to understand.
Right.
And this boy now has a new lease on life,
Wow.
right? On the flip side, that same technology can be used to do awful things. I remember when I was much younger, they talked about designer babies, and that you could pick and choose what you wanted your child to look like, what color hair, what color eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, these people are out of their minds.
Right.
But in fact, that same technology, right, in that same family of genetic, I'm going to say engineering, genetic editing, as a baby is literally growing, right, after gestation, you can change, you can literally create a child in whatever image you want, which I think is horrifying,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
That unfortunately is something that, like, without formation, a parent might say, "What's wrong with it?" Like, I'm not doing anything um, bad to somebody else. But I mean, that's seems like a very illicit use.
Well, if we were to drill down into it, first and foremost, I'm sure this technique for this young boy was extraordinarily expensive.
Hmm.
And therefore, there is, forgive me for being frank, but there's profit to be made. And in this case, for this young boy, that profit was well worth the price because this boy was healed,
Yes.
right?
Right.
But then there's a market and profit to be made in create and using a similar technology, but as gene manipulation, to be able to create children that are designer, because you want him to be smarter, faster, handsome, she to be beautiful, attractive, articulate, can sing. And we've gotten to the point where a lot of that can actually be mapped out. That could you imagine, Steve, particularly those who have the means, how lucrative a business that would be?
That's
Taking the
unfortunately.
guesswork out of everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what are we doing in the end? What we're doing in the end is playing God. And we're playing with fire, not only because of the artificiality of it, not only because you're robbing the person the natural rights to make choices that you're making for them,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But it's a slippery slope.
Yes. Yeah. Also, what do you think of this idea that, and I haven't thought it through, this is my first time thinking about this, but the idea that then as a parent, you're not necessarily loving your kid for who your kid is with all his or her flaws, etc., but you're loving this
Your
menu.
creation, your
Yeah,
creation,
right.
your creation. Absolutely. That's part of it. And the other thing that's deeply disturbing to me is that not only would you have such an extraordinary intervention in the dignity and in the reality and in the freedom of another human being, but what prevents down the road an agency other than parents or an agency that has no relation to the person at all making the same decisions? So, what about if the state decided there's too many people and therefore let's just do some genetic manipulation so that, a person becomes sterile at 30
Hmm. Right.
for the greater good, right? Or worse, in history, we saw this experimentation that the Nazis did. And what was that for? That was for what? Creating what? A pure society? What does that mean?
Right.
So, you would you put this is terrible for me to say, but I'm old now. Would you put a gun in the hand of a child? Of course not.
Right.
Well, you could be extraordinarily bright, and I hope I don't offend anyone. You could be extraordinarily bright and gifted in your profession, so you can do this work. But it doesn't mean that you're mature ethically or morally or even socially.
Yes.
And then what do? You're putting kind of a power in someone's hands who may not have the guardrails to say, well, wait a minute though. Well, why are we doing this? To what greater good, either for the person or society? What and you can unleash forces that the person may not even realize he or she is unleashing.
Yep. This is the start of so many like horrific sci-fi books and movies.
Without a doubt. No, without a doubt. And therefore the question is, how is it regulated?
Thanks for watching. Before you go, please be sure to subscribe, like, hit the bell, leave a comment down below. All of that stuff helps us reach more souls.